Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the very first episode of Discussion with Visionaries. And today I have a very special guest with me, Mr. Israel Denis. He's a CEO in United States. He owns a company named Syndian, and he provides consultancy to the clients across the globe with Microsoft products, with some Infor products. And today we will discuss how he started his company, how he became a CEO, and what he does and how he does. Hello, Israel. How are you?
Fine, and you, Rana. Thank you for the warm introduction. Thank you for the nice compliment that you mentioned there. It's good to be with you on your first podcast.
Yeah, and the pleasure is mine as well. Thank you for joining the podcast with me. So there's a format of the session, and which we will follow. And I will start from the very beginning, where you were born, and then we will move on to the education and all of the journey that you did, and how you became what you are, and what are the challenges that you faced along the way. So, are you okay with the format?
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine, and it's good to be sharing my story with you and with your audience and your listeners. I think it's a nice story, so I'm glad you invited me to connect with you and be part of your podcast.
Well, thank you very much for your kind words. Okay, let's start. So, please tell me where you were you born?
Yeah, so I'm actually Cuban. I was born in Cuba, and my parents immigrated to the United States back in 1980. We came when we were very young. I was very young, and then we migrated into to Miami and grew up in Miami. So that's how we came. And my background is Cuban. I'm fluent in Spanish, and speak a couple other languages.
Right. So from Cuba, you started your journey from by moving out of Cuba to United States. Right. And what about your initial education?
So my initial education, I came here. I was around 7, 8 years old. I went to high school in Miami. Finished high school. Went to community college. I did 2 years there, and then I transferred up to Georgia Tech. My background in education, I have a master's in electrical engineering, but I transferred to Georgia Tech from Miami-Dade, pursuing a mechanical engineering degree, and then found out that the sciences and some of those things I didn't really like, the thermodynamics and whatnot. So I ended up switching to electrical engineering as part of that. Just going into electrical engineering,
Right.
and then during the electrical engineering, I got a fellowship or scholarship to go to the grad school, and so I started out as a bachelor's degree, completed my bachelor's in electrical engineering, and then with the scholarship I did a master's in electrical engineering.
Right. Right. So how you shifted from electrical engineering background to the software side, because now you are uh, now the customers that you have all of are related the services that you are providing related to the software, not to the electrical stuff. So how you switched?
Yeah. Yeah, so my journey is a little interesting
Yeah.
because I got, as part of that scholarship, I got the scholarship with Procter and Gamble, and they do a lot of obviously that Procter and Gamble sells a lot of consumer
Yeah.
products, soap, detergents, and whatnot. So they offered me that scholarship, and then they gave me the opportunity to do an internship with them. So the scholarship was a combination of money for school and then a job during the summers. And when I went in the summer program, they asked me, which areas I wanted to join. Whether they had engineering and a couple others, and then they had, a branch on IT. And
Right.
IT at the time was a very popular area. So I ended up, going into the summer internship program in the IT department with Procter and Gamble. And Procter at the time was implementing global SAP.
Right.
And so I ended up going into the global SAP practice for Procter and Gamble, and then I worked under a gentleman named Harry,
Hmm.
and then we were the only two doing security for the company. So I ended up going into a very niche market space, doing ERP, support for Procter and Gamble, and then I was designing all the security for that. And then in the course of that event, I really liked software and I really liked the opportunity that IT had to offer. So when I graduated, I knew immediately that I wasn't going to become an electrical engineer. I knew I was going to be more on the software side, and so that's how I got into software.
Right, right, right. So while you have an interest for the IT sector, but you still manage to complete your electrical engineering degree. Right,
Yes,
right.
yes.
So yeah,
I figured that the electrical engineering degree was always going to be good,
yeah,
right? So I knew I had to complete, and I was, I had already gotten the scholarship, and it was going to be under the engineering degree. So I didn't want to change, in my master's
yeah,
and go from electrical to software, but I ended up taking the job with, after I graduated from my electrical engineering degree. Procter extended a full-time offer to me for a full-time job.
right,
And so I ended up taking that job with them. What I was doing as an intern, I took the full-time job of that.
right,
When I graduated, I moved to Cincinnati, and then I became, I was in software at that point,
right, right.
and I really enjoyed the work. And it, like I said, at the time, IT was a very high
Yeah,
demand area.
right. Yeah, and which year is are we talking about?
This was back in 1996.
Yeah, 1996.
1996.
When you were saying, so you're saying that in
Yeah,
1996, IoT was a big thing, and it was in huge demand, and you ended up switching. Not switching, actually, you completed your degree, but you managed to end up doing the IT stuff, the software stuff. But have you ever, give it a thought to integrate electrical into IT at the back then?
no, back then, I mean, I didn't want to be, just an electrical engineer. I didn't want to design circuits for a living. I didn't want to be,
Right,
I took a number of courses, and at one point I even worked for GE Transportation. I designed the electronic fuel injection for the locomotive, so I knew I didn't want to do that. The job was just too boring for me.
right,
And and then with IT, I would get the chance to travel. I would see new technology. I was programming, so it was kind of fun and interesting. In 1996, the ERP market space was in high demand,
yeah.
and there were not a lot of people in that field. So it was just a very niche market. I had a good mentor too that I was working with, and he provided some guidance. And so I stayed in IT and I loved it. You know.
Right, right, right. So very in the very start, you were doing the ERP. You're working in the ERP sector, and you are still providing services majorly in the ERP sector, right?
That's correct. That's
Back then,
correct.
yeah,
I did. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I stayed in ERP through the course of my career, right? When I graduated, I went into ERP, and now running Sendy and I, we do one of the big things that we do is ERP support. So yeah, I stayed in ERP through the course of my career.
right, right, right. So it was 1996, and you switched you from electrical engineering. You were totally switched to software side and in IT sector, and you were providing services for ERP. But you were doing so. These services were part of a job, or were you providing as an independent consultant?
No, I started out as a full-time job. So I started out working with Procter as a full-time employee. I was under the global SAP project. They were rolling out SAP across here, north. It was Asia Pacific, Europe, and Latin America.
Right,
So I was managing along. So I was reporting up to this gentleman named Harry, and he was kind of like the VP for the global security for that project. And it was like a team of three or four of us that we were doing all the security for the whole company.
right,
And so it was a very interesting project. We got a chance to go to Europe, Latin America, and then it was just a very nice project. But What I really didn't like is I was living in Cincinnati, so that area there is very cold,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and I'm a Hispanic,
Yeah.
you know, so I kind of missed the warm
Yeah.
weather of South Florida where I grew up, and then I stayed with Proctor for about a year and a half,
Yeah.
and then I moved back down to South Florida and hired on with a hospital or a healthcare company. And then I was for them I was doing I was they were implementing an ERP at that point, and they needed some help. So they I hired on as a manager of corporate applications for them,
Right.
and I was helping them manage their implementation for that project. And at that point, that was Lawson Software,
Right.
and they only had one. They had I was reporting directly to the CIO, and I was managing the whole project at that point. So it was a
Right.
interesting move.
Right. So, in comparison with back then and now, what was the adoption frequency and adoption rate of ERP when it comes to hospitals specifically? When as you said that you were hired to do ERP implementation, the Lawson implementation within a hospital. So were you
Yeah.
part of the pre-sales team as well, or you just provide the consultancy?
Yeah, so they had already the company had already selected Lawson. When I came, they were in the middle of the implementation, but they didn't really have a lot of expertise, and they were struggling with the project. So they brought me in to help them manage that project, and it was a new project for them. It was at the time it was a small company. They probably had, I don't know, 400
Yeah.
employees, and they were buying other practices, so they wanted to grow the company. So they needed an ERP application to help them manage the whole growth. And so I came in on to help them with that project. And going back to the Proctor days, the adoption of Proctor, like this was a global company implementing a software package to allow them to track their revenue, their resources across the whole enterprise. And so it allowed me to see how valuable this ERP application was to organizations. And I think that's what helped me get the opportunity with the healthcare company in South Florida.
Right, right, right. So, how you started your companies? At that time, you were hired, and you were leading that project for the loss and implementation in the hospital. So, how you started your company? What was the transition between changing from employer to being an employer? So, how you did that?
Yeah, so it was an interesting course because when I was in Proctor, we were working with a lot of consultants. So, in the course of that project, I talked to a bunch of them, and I knew back then that I wanted to start a company, but I didn't have a project that I could hire on to, or I didn't have an idea or how to do things. So, when I went to South Florida and hired on with the company managing the loss and application,
Yeah.
I I started building a relationship with other people and things like that. So the CIO on the company I was working with left, and he
Right.
became VP of IT for a hospital, bigger hospital.
Right.
And we had successfully rolled out Lawson at this company, and he asked me, "Hey, we have an opportunity for you to implement our employee self-service module, and he said this is what this other company is quoting us for. It was a big number, and he said if you can do it for half that price, you got yourself some work for the next 3 to 6 months.
Right.
So I analyzed the number, and I knew that I could get it done, and I knew that if I completed the project in 3 months, I would make enough money for what I was making at the time for a full year.
Right.
So I said, I want to start my own company, and it's a good opportunity. I'm very young, and so I took the opportunity, and I that was my first project. I formed a company, did the project, and then then that's how the company got started. Is this the CIO from my original company in South Florida asked me to do a project for
Right.
them, and they entrusted in me that I could deliver, and I was able to deliver, and they were very happy. And so I that was my first project, and that's how I started the company, is from that implementation of the employee self service for Lawson for that hospital.
Right, right, right. So, in consulting life, it is very much important to have proper connections and proper relations with your seniors. Because in your case, you got an opportunity from your senior because he had, he trusted you, and he saw what you are capable of. So, do you think? When you were hired to do that project and you agreed upon to do that project, so did you completed that project on solely on by your own, or you hired someone?
No, I did it all by my own. So yeah, they entrusted me, and they said, we want to implement this, we want to roll this out. They had their internal team that was handling all the communications and parts of the setup, but they had a lot of customization.
Right,
And back then, I had a lot of web development skills. So employee self service required a lot of customizations, like on the benefit plan. When the employee selected the benefit, they wanted to display certain verbiage, or they wanted to do some calculations. So I was able to implement the module and get the customizations done for them, very quickly. And so the project that they thought was going to take 6 months, we ended up doing 3 to 4 months. So it took a lot less time,
right.
and it was a very successful project. And so yeah, I did it all on my own. I didn't hire anybody. I couldn't afford to hire people back
Yeah,
then.
because if you do hire,
So
you end up losing your what you are earning in comparison with your job.
right.
Then you will end up losing that, right? So
Yeah, I remember I wasn't getting paid much. In comparison to what what they were getting charged, they were going to pay twice as what they were going to pay me. But for me, as a full-time employee, I was going to make more money in 4 months than I did in the whole year. So it allowed me to have 8 months of not working if I didn't work, to be able to sustain myself for 8 months. So I saw that as an opportunity. I do this project for 4 months, and then I'll be able to make as much money as I would when I was working full time. So I didn't want to have to pay somebody
yeah,
to for that. Plus, I didn't trust them. Whoever I hire, I didn't have the expertise or the knowledge to know if these people were fully qualified.
right, right,
So I didn't. I was young. I didn't have the experience to know whether the people that I would interview would be even qualified. And plus, when they told me, to do the project, they were requesting me. So if
yeah,
I change the person and say, okay, this person's going to do the work, I don't know how receptive it would have been to that. But that was my first project. It was the
right.
first opportunity for me to, it also allowed me to start the company.
Yeah, so you got your first project, and you formed a proper company to deliver that project. But and
Yes,
after 4 months, you have enough funds to support yourself for the whole year, right? Then
yes, yes.
how you manage to get more customers and more projects?
So you said one thing a little bit a while ago, is networking and staying in touch
Yeah,
with people. I think one of the key things for consulting, and one of the key things in business, is you have to be able to network with other resources, with other whether it's companies or people, individuals. You need to be able to have good connections and network with folks, because that's how you hear of projects, you see what's going on. And so yeah, I got involved with the organization in South Florida that was for all the hospitals. It was called the Lawson User Group Community,
right,
and there was South Florida is known. All the New Yorkers come from New York and then retire in South Florida. So
right,
there's a lot of hospitals, and there's a lot of community for healthcare, and so um, the Lawson application was growing in the implementation side in the healthcare market space in South Florida. And so when I got involved with this organization, with the Loss and User Group community, I quickly learned the dynamics of who was implementing, what kind of projects they were working
Right.
on. And so I then started networking in that group, and I got, more projects. I told them, hey, we just finished the employee service project over here. Do you need some help? And so I started networking with them and started, trying to get more work, more projects.
Right, right,
So I
right.
ended up doing a couple of those.
But all of them were in the healthcare sector, right?
Yeah, all of them were healthcare. So I have a lot of healthcare background. I worked in a lot of hospitals.
Yeah.
I worked in like 3 or 4 hospitals in South Florida. That from there on, I went into some hospitals in New York, and then once I got into New York, then I went into hospitals in Indiana, um, Chicago, a number of other hospitals. So I was kind of like working multiple projects at that
At that
point.
point, right, right, right. And just because you, when you completed a project with good reviews and you have the, connections within the community, so based on your network, you kept going on and on and on and on. Right, right, right.
Yeah, you keep going, and also you start working with the same kind of people, right?
Yeah,
So when you went into a project, you saw the same people working on the project. So now you start building the network of other independent contractors that are working. And so whenever I got pulled into a project, I would call 2 or 3 friends that were also on similar projects.
right,
And
right,
so
right.
that's how the whole organization got formed. Is it we would bring the same resources to other projects.
Right, right, right. So, from getting projects point of view, you were covered. But what was the vision that you had in your mind for your company back then, or for yourself as well?
Yeah, so for myself, my vision was that I wanted to build an organization that I could employ, you know, a number of employees and help clients with their challenges and their problems. I saw an opportunity, and I still see the opportunity for knowledge, very niche knowledge or very high tech knowledge. Um, Companies have a hard time acquiring expertise,
Yeah,
right? So the way technology changes is so fast that sometimes it's very hard for them to hire people that have the knowledge on the expertise. So my vision back then was to build a company that has the latest and greatest technology and provide those skill sets to the organizations.
right.
And so that's what allowed us to build the organization and the company to what it is
Right,
today.
right, right. So I have one question in my mind. So as you were saying that your the focus that you had in your mind, that you want to have people in your organization who are more open to learning new technologies and they are skilled as well in the new technologies. But the
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, carry on.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
go ahead, go ahead.
So, but in markets, a good consultant is valued upon on his experience, right? The number of years of his experience. But if we talk about new technologies are coming day by day. So you cannot have an
Yeah,
experience in a new technology, right? So how
yeah,
does you evaluated
absolutely.
your resources to deliver the project if the technology is new?
Yeah, so what I've learned is that if you want to be the latest on the new technology, is you have to have a team of people who are keen to learning, right? So technology is going to
Yeah,
change every day, and so if you have a team of people who are quick learners, who are passionate about what they do, they will pick up the technology in no time. And so what I was seeing is that these organizations, especially on the healthcare side, they had like the employees with their mindsets were they weren't learning all these technologies. They were just performing a function over and
yeah,
over and over again. So they were. It's not like you have all of these young kids that are learning Java, they're learning C++,
yeah.
they're learning all these technologies, and so the what I was seeing at these hospitals was an older generation that was struggling to learn the newer technologies,
Right,
and
right,
so
right.
that was an opportunity. It was an opportunity to hire people that were bright, that were passionate, and they would learn the technology and then help the organizations grow.
Right, right, right. But when you said that it was a generation in hospital who was trying to learn new things but they are failing, but why they were failing to learn new things? Just it is because of their age, or they were reluctant to learn new things, or it was there was no pressure from the organization to learn new things.
I think it could be a number of things.
Mhm.
As human beings, we're kind of um, preconditioned to not
Yeah,
change, right? So they were kind of like they didn't want to change, right? They were used to doing their normal day-to-day task and completing that and not learning new things.
right.
And so, yeah, I don't know what it was, but I was just seeing that they couldn't quickly learn new things.
So, yeah, so you saw that
It
opportunity.
was a
Yeah,
challenge.
it was an open challenge.
Yeah, I saw the opportunity.
So,
Yeah, it's an opportunity. It was an opportunity.
exactly. Right, right, right. So it comes. So it brings another question. So what challenges were you faced when you were going through the project implementation across the healthcare sector within US, and when you were providing your services, you were only focused within the US, right?
Yeah, I was only focused. When we still are, we only focus on the U.S.
Right, right, right. So what challenges were you faced?
Well, we faced a number of challenges. One is finding the resources, the consultants that were eager to learn new things, and then also open enough to learn the technologies that we were looking for, and then willing to be part of a team. I was working with a team of independent contractors, so they all had different mindsets.
Right.
But yeah, I think we faced a number of challenges. We overcame some of those challenges. Our key to our success has always been the people that make Sandian, and so early on, I realized that in order for us to grow, we wanted to have these I always wanted to hire people that were smarter than me, right? And so I did that. I hired people that were a lot smarter than me and empowered them to do their thing. I provided guidance, and so some of the challenges early on for us were, having the right expertise in the
Yeah.
team and finding those people. Recruiting has always
Yeah.
been a
So
challenge.
when hiring a consultant, the mindset of a consultant is the main key for you to hire him, because if he has a mindset who is not, uh, if he doesn't want to change, if he doesn't want to learn new things, if he doesn't like new challenges, so he will be no good for you, right?
Well, not that he's done no good for us, but I want them to have the mindset to always push themselves,
Yeah.
right? To always learn new things, to always, just push themselves a little more. But yeah, I mean, there's a place for everybody in the organization. But I was focused on hiring the people who wanted to grow. They wanted to level up, as we say, and so they wanted to learn new technologies. They wanted an opportunity, and we wanted to provide that opportunity for them to learn. And so that's what allowed us to really to grow.
Right, right, right. So back then, so how do you see what was the first milestone of Sindian in your opinion?
The first milestone was when we got office space.
Yeah,
We were doing a project for a client here in Dallas. I was traveling all over the U.S. and they offered me the opportunity to help them with the project, and in exchange, they offered me. I told them that I was trying to build. I told them my plan. I'm trying to build this organization. I'm trying to build this company.
right,
You guys have part of the building empty. I want to be able to use that part in exchange for some work. So a big milestone for us was when this client gave us half of the floor as office space
right,
in exchange for some of the work that we were doing. And so that was a big milestone because now I had office space, they had some of the furniture already there, so the office space came with furniture and everything, phones included,
Yes.
and so they kind of provided the infrastructure, if you will, for the growth, and so that allowed me to hire people full time. So I hired a secretary, I hired a recruiter, and I hired two consultants.
Right.
So
Right.
it was five of us, and that's how that was the big break that we were looking for. The first break was the big project when I was full
Yeah.
time. The second break came when the company offered us
Office
free
space.
office
Yes.
space in exchange for work.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Right. And before that, you were working with the independent contractors, but after getting your
yes,
office, you hired resources full time.
full time.
Right, right, right. So I can see that you have a vision for to hire visionary people, not visionary. I would say that I can see that you have a vision in your mind to hire a consultant full time who is eager to push himself, and you wanted to help him to push himself. So I can see that you are a people person, and you want to
Yes.
help people, and you want to help the community. That's for sure. I can see, and it is a trait for a CEO. It is a must have trait for any CEO.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the role of the CEO is to help the employees grow, right? My role now is to help our team get to the next level, right? I'm now working on succession planning. I'm trying to get people to get the right training. We analyze, what are the next key areas where opportunities will double. And so my role as a CEO now is to analyze our clients' needs first of all, but second and more importantly is our team. How do we grow our team?
Yeah.
How do we hire more people? How do we groom the people that we have, the team that we have, and move them to leadership opportunities? So that's my role now.
Right, right, right. So the second break that you got when you got an office, what year was it?
I think that was 2005. Yeah.
2005. Right. And when did you bought your own office space?
Yeah, so I started a company in 1999, 2000. 5 years later, we got the office space, and then I think a couple of years now we have the building that we're in. So
Right, right.
so probably I think so one of the things I wanted to say is when I was with the company that was providing the office space, they acquired another company, so they ended up taking our space back
Right,
2 years after they give us the space, and then we rented another building. We grew that at the time we was five people. We grew that organization. At that time we grew the organization to about 17 employees, including
right,
myself. So we went from 5 to 17 in the course of 3 years. And then that was probably 2008, 2009. Then the market slowed down a little bit, and we downsized.
right.
And then so the company grew really, really quickly, shrunk
Yeah,
quickly, and now back to expansion. But yeah, we were in another building, and we were 17 at that point.
right, right. So when you shrunk, was it at the time when the world has seen the Great Recession?
Yeah, there was a recession period, 2008,
2008. Yeah.
2009, the time frame.
Yes. Yeah.
And it took about 2 or 3 years to rebound. So probably around 2013, the economy rebounded.
Yeah.
We got the space that we're in probably 2016, 2015, something like that. And so we've been in the space since
Right, right.
since
And
then.
how many employees do you have now?
We have 32 employees right now.
Right. Great, great, great.
We have a
And you are still,
couple
yeah,
interns, and then the employees.
right. And you are still providing the implementation and consulting services for the ERP.
Yeah, our focus
Yeah.
is primarily on managed services. So um, we help clients with their ERP applications. We help them implement not implement, but we help them support it, right? So they
Support
usually
and
they'll come.
manage. Yeah.
Yeah, we help them support and manage. So anything that has to do with corporate applications, we help them manage. Um,
Right. Right.
Whatever
Right.
it is, we help them manage it.
And the preferred ERP for you is Lawson, right?
It was lost and they got bought out by Infor, so it's Infor
Info.
right now. And then we also
Info.
do with Microsoft products and a lot of the database support. So we have a couple of areas of expertise.
Within Microsoft as well.
Yeah, within Microsoft. So Microsoft Azure, Microsoft Office 365, Infor, technical, functional development, and all of that. And then we also do a lot of the databases, Oracle databases, SQL Server databases, all of the databases. And then we have a development team. So the development team help us develop custom applications.
Right, right, right. So the custom applications that you develop are specifically for the ERP, or they are independent products.
We have both. We have some applications for the ERP that we develop for our clients, and then we also have custom applications that we develop for aviation. So one of my passion
Aviation.
is aviation, and so we're developing some aviation tools.
Right, right, right. So you are also in the aviation sector as well. So
Yes,
healthcare and aviation are your both primarily focused sectors, right?
that's right. Healthcare is a passion, always been a passion, and then aviation is another passion. And then
Right,
those are two areas where we will always have strong um, sectors.
right, right. So I know you, because you were implementing Lawson from a very long time. That's why you stick with that. But when it comes to Microsoft, why don't you go and present and try to sell Microsoft Dynamics ERP?
Yeah, I mean, so we got into Microsoft because we realized that everybody has a desktop in front of
Yeah.
them on their desktop, right, or the laptops or whatever. So um, no matter what organization, no matter what business, no matter what sector you're on, you're always going to need Word, Excel, Outlook. You're always going to need the
Yeah.
Office products, if you will. And so we saw early on an opportunity to provide support to users that needed help in this area. Right? Keep in mind, in the healthcare market, they people were challenged. They didn't, they
Yeah.
were stuck or didn't want.
Yeah.
As you've seen yourself, Office has evolved, right? Word has evolved,
Yeah.
Outlook has evolved, Excel has
Yeah.
evolved. So they've always needed help on the Office 365 or the Office space. It wasn't until a couple of years ago that Office, all you had was Exchange, and so
Yes.
Microsoft took the position of, going full SaaS. And so
Yeah.
they started offering Office 365 as a cloud service. And so we became a partner and then we got certified and now we provide
Hmm.
Office 365 and Azure support for
Right.
clients needing that support.
Yeah, Microsoft. When I started working on Microsoft Office 365, it was back in, you can say, back in 2013,
Mhm.
and Microsoft was, keep on focusing on the SaaS model. Before that, you are right. It was only Microsoft Exchange. When then Office 365 came, the whole SaaS model came in, and people
Yeah.
were very eager to switch to that SaaS model. And yeah, at back then it was a good opportunity. It was a gap. People wanted to move. They don't know how to move, how to migrate, how to get started with cloud. So yeah, and you started your services back then, right?
Yeah,
For
yeah, I started
Microsoft.
back then. I
Yeah.
remember one of the things I remember is that when you bought the Windows products, you would get CDs. They would
Yes.
send you a stack of CDs
Yeah.
to install on your computer, or floppy disk and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, SaaS didn't exist back then, and
Yeah.
so I mean, you've seen it. Everybody's moving to this SaaS model where they don't they don't purchase software; they purchase a subscription. And
Subscription. Yeah.
so, that subscription model of getting software was a very key move for a lot of key players in the market space. And that's when we realized that this is an area where people are going to need support. It's something that they're going to get through the cloud, and we should focus on that area. And that's how we
Right, right, right.
got involved there.
So when you got involved with Office 365, specifically with Microsoft, before that, customers store their data locally on their data centers. When it comes to cloud, it is my experience that people were very reluctant to move to the cloud due to security issues. They thought that there will be security issues, that their data would be compromised, Microsoft would have access to their data. It is my experience. I face these kind of challenges. So did you face these kind of challenges as well?
Yeah, I mean, everybody did, right? Everybody faced the same challenges. They were getting questions about this, how secure their data was. But Microsoft was quickly able to assure them that the data was secure. I'm also a cybersecurity expert, and so even when we're involved in some of the cybersecurity incidents that we've seen, the the vendor is never at fault. Like the vendor is never the one that's caused the issue, right? The issues comes
Yeah.
out of something else. So Microsoft and some of the software vendors that provide cloud solutions take great measures to ensure that that data is secure. And so when we met with clients and with potential clients, we show them how secure the data is, and they quickly trusted the vendor to move forward with some of those solutions.
Right, right, right. So there was an also opportunity to because as you said that most of the cases when data gets stolen, or there's a breached, or there's a breach in the data center, or there has been a hack. So the main issue, the main reason why it is happened is due to the lack of security from the user end or from the device end, not from the vendor, not from the Office 365 or on Azure end. So that was also an opportunity to educate the end user, to to implement the more security for the endpoints and for the data in transit. So did you tap that opportunity as well, or is it something you are still working on?
Yeah, that's something that we're still working on. I mean, that's not going to change. I think end users and clients need to be educated on some of the ways to make things more secure. Um, every day, new holes are popping up, new ways of
Yeah.
getting into these kinds of things are happening. So I think in terms of going forward, it's an area that we're still exploring and we're still helping out. That's not that's always going to be the case.
Right,
It's
right, right,
assisting users to help them make their data more secure.
right, right. So how do you see the future of IT sector, where it is going?
Yeah, I think the future of IT sector looks very bright, um, because technology is evolving quickly. I remember that we didn't even have laptops in my day. Cell phones was non-existent.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
the technology that from everything from the hardware to the software has evolved immensely, and so I mean, we couldn't even do cameras, back then,
yeah,
right? So now we're doing video calls. We're on our phone and our mobile devices connected to apps. So IT is going to be a world of connectivity. People are going to be connected. The data is going to provide more value, and it's going to be more rich, and it's going to be more real time, right? So I think the future for IT is bright. I think there will always be the need for partners and for people who are learning the technologies that are coming out,
yeah,
and helping clients with those challenges. I think is going to be a big, big, big business. Um, uh, it will always be, right? And in
yeah,
order to stay competitive, you have to implement these technology. I saw it when I was
yeah.
very young in Procter. They were implementing some of the technology that allowed them to get how much sales are we doing in China compared to
Mm.
Brazil, right? And
Right,
so,
data
and
warehouse kind of solutions.
yeah, like a data warehouse, and it was just for one bottle of soap that they were making 10, 20 cents, right? And
Right,
so that and probably it took them a week to get that data back then. Now you have that data in, in seconds,
In seconds, yeah.
because you have better technology. I think so. I think the technology that we're using allows us to stay very very connected. Where most of us are operating on a real time data. You and I are in different time zones, and we're
Yeah,
communicating like if we're in the same space.
yeah.
We're using cameras and things that we couldn't use before. Back then, even if we wanted to, the bandwidth was not there, right? So
Yes.
we're experiencing, we have the 5G that's coming out. We're probably going to get higher bandwidth that's going to open ourselves up to better technology. We're going to have cars that are self-driving.
Mhm.
Transportation is going to be impacted, so that's going to require a lot of technology. So I think the future is bright for IT. I think there's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of areas for very smart people that have good solutions, and so
Yeah.
we're preparing ourselves for that area.
Yeah, the more and more the digital we become, the more and more opportunities arrive, for to implement the security, to implement the best practices, to implement solutions which reduces cost and enhances the productivity. So yeah, opportunities are endless in coming days. So, and what, at the very end, what suggestion would you give to a younger person, or to a younger self of you, if
Yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
think one. Go ahead, go ahead. I'll let you finish, and then I'll give you my
yeah,
thoughts.
yeah. How old are you now?
I don't know what I want to say, but because I'm gonna look old,
Okay,
but
don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it.
no,
Don't
I
say it.
can say, I'm 50 years old. I just turned 50 this year, so I'm
Okay,
halfway to 100. Halfway to
halfway to
100.
100. Yeah. Yeah.
So
But I'm saying that, what advice would you give to your younger version?
I think one advice that I would give my younger self is take a risk. Obviously, be cautious about taking risk. Learn about opportunities. Um, immerse yourself in newer technology. I mean, I was learning about the internet when Amazon was there, so we were experiencing the .NET bubble and all that stuff. So I would say, learn technology as they come out, analyze what technology is good for opportunity, stay on the leading edge, and push yourself to higher to learning new things. Push yourself to learning new things. I think
Right.
those are key advice that I would give myself, my younger self. I would give those advice to you or some of the younger people that I know. And always be pushing yourself because it's going to uh, set a rhythm in your life for you to continue down as you get older. Continue to
Yeah.
push yourself, continue to learn, continue to grow. I think
Yeah.
those are good advice that everybody will need.
We were discussing these things for the last 48 minutes, and it's been a very great time hearing to your story, hearing to your journey, how you did. And obviously I wanted to discuss more thing. I wanted to hear you more, what you did, how you did. But I guess this is that's it for today's video, for today's
Hmm.
episode, right? And thank you very much, Israel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I really enjoy my conversation with you, Rana. I wish you lots of success on your podcast. I know you would
Thank you,
do
man.
really well. You came prepared, so I definitely enjoyed the conversation. I'm open to meeting with you to discuss other things. I think you will do really well. I think you possess a lot of intellect and insight into a lot of topics. So I think whatever you set your mind to, you will do really really well. So yeah, definitely, thank you for inviting me and having me as a guest in your show. I know that others will feel as welcome as I did. I think you come very prepared, and I think that's a good thing. So yeah,
Thank you,
you
thank
know.
you, thank you very much, Israel. Thank you for your kind words. As you know, this is the very first episode of my podcast, and yeah, I tried to prepare myself beforehand, because if, you are a big guy. I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want to leave an impression that I am not. This is not a professional, and I like professionalism. So that's why I prepare myself. But thank you for identifying and noticing these things. It means a lot to me actually. And thank you, Israel.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, so I just wanted to say thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to maybe joining another show with a different topic and being part of that. I've enjoyed myself as being part of being a guest in your show.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this was the very first episode that we had with Mr. Israel Denis. He's a CEO working in US. He runs his consulting company, and I would love to hear your feedback, your suggestions, how we can improve the quality, how if any question that you want me to ask some other guest or Mr. Israel as well, we can have them for another episode as well. If so, make sure to leave your suggestions in the comment section, and I will meet you in the next video. Thank you very much.
Thank you.